Chapter 7. The Bargome of Hell. Who asked you to bring a spare? Shouted Dokfo. Yell at me if you want, but the guy tagged along, so there's nothing to be done, said the traitor. Jint nearly said, I didn't tag along as a joyride, you know. But instead, he decided to keep quiet and watch how things played out. He and Maydeen hadn't been tied up, but judging by the mugs of the men surrounding them, he had a feeling it would be wise not to make any sudden movements. They were in the conference room of the administrative building. There, Dokfu and Anguzen and around 20 other people, all men, had been waiting for them, or more accurately, just Maydeen. In no time at all, the room had made quite the transformation. The tasteful opal-white walls had been smeared with primary color paints, while bottles of booze littered the floor, along with other stuff the use of which he could only guess. They were maybe used for gambling, but he couldn't be sure. The second they'd entered the room, the wrist gear was confiscated, and he was made to sit in a corner. He didn't mind not being furnished with a seat, not least because all the chairs, big and small, had been stained and tarnished. There were still a few spots on the floor. This just means we've got another hostage, said Anguzen. Don't be absurd. Do you wish to stir the animosity of the Empire? If we just kept it at the chief executive, then we'd have kept things internal. But if an imperial noble gets wrapped up, then who knows what could happen. If that's what you think, then release His Excellency, said Maydeen calmly. I'd thank you to release me while you're at it, but I dare say that's not going to happen. You have that right. Releasing you would be quite daft. Then a sly smile came upon his lips. Unless, that is, you wouldn't mind revoking the relocation authorization in exchange? As if I would ever do such a thing. It appeared as though Maydeen had known they'd make that demand, because his reply was swift. You like kids? Asked Anguzen out of nowhere. What's this all of a sudden? Scowled Maydeen. Yes, I do. What of it? I like kids too. Got 5 of them, here and there. But I'll never get to see them again. So I want new kids. And if all the broads leave, that's no more new kids. Maydeen groaned. All this, for that? What do you mean, for that? Anguzen made to punch Maydeen. Now, settle down, said Dokfo, stopping him. Why don't you try putting yourself in his shoes, Chief? That man just dreams of a harmonious family life, that's all. And if you'd lived good, honest lives, nobody would have bothered to sever you from your families, said Maydeen. Not to mention, the people you goons murdered had families, too. We've no interest in the past, said Dokfo. Nor do we wish to hear your sanctimonious lecturing at this stage. We're interested in the future. A future where healthy, happy children run across the surface of this planet called Lobnus 2. And you're trying to wrest that vision away from us. Then you should have negotiated with Ms. Schunger. If she would have gladly assisted you in creating a beautiful future full of scampering children, then I wouldn't have put the women on ships out of here. But no. The women were the ones who asked me to get them out. Whatever, just stop off-planeting all the dames, demanded Anguzen with maximum concision. As I've told you in the past, Budded and Jint, you can make use of artificial birthing technology too. Kids need mothers, shouted Anguzen, pointing a finger at Jint. How do you not get that? No matter how much love and affection a father pours into his child, they'll only ever pick up a tiny bit. There's a thick cloud hanging between a child and their father. A mother's love is different, though. A kid picks up on it without a cloud blocking it off. But half of the Ov don't have a mother. That's why you're so messed up, proclaimed Anguzen. Mr. Anguzen's beliefs may be on the extreme end, said Dokfo, but my own opinion isn't too far removed from his at all. The ideal state is a complete family. To be frank, it irks me to be told I'm a broken man just because I was raised without knowing who or where my parents were, but I can't deny that my childhood was extremely lonely. And I know I don't want my children to feel the same way. Be that as it may, the majority of the inmates in the West Zone refused to make families with you lot. What was I to do? Maydeen objected. Besides, you can insist the children need a family's love, but what need is there to be so fixated on natural childbirth? There are plenty of women in the Central Zone. Make your families with them. Pour your affection on kids birthed artificially. There's no way Mr. Dokfa's lot, in particular, will leave behind their kids. Given the same love, what difference is there between children born naturally and children born artificially? What a horrible person you are, said Dokfur. Are you telling us to raise children mass-produced in some factory as our own? We can't love children who don't have our blood running through their veins, said Anguzin. Gentlemen, there seems to be a misunderstanding, said Jint. The children aren't mass-produced in a factory, and it's more than possible to birth children who bear your genes. In fact, that's how the Ov usually do it. But it'd be a kid with a mother whose face I don't even know. Anguzin brandished a fist. Count, Your Excellency, said Dokfo, we have no intention whatsoever of adopting artificial birthing technology. Is that clear? Jint just nodded. It seemed there was nothing else he could do. No choice now but to keep quiet and resign himself to the proceedings. If you don't plan to adopt the technology, then give up on having kids. Your choice isn't between artificial and natural birth. It's between artificial birth or a childless future, said Maydeen. Well, I suppose you can call for female immigrants. Mind you, I don't know that there are any out there with strange enough taste. So, you're not going to revoke it, no matter what, I take it? Dokfo pulled out a gun. No, I won't. Enough already, said Maydeen bluntly. If you don't, then... Dokfo raised the gun showily. I'm a high-ranking official in the UH. Your threats are empty, I'll kill him. He thrust its muzzle square into Jint's forehead. What me? Looking back on this moment later, he knew that was a stupid reaction, but at the moment, he was assailed by pure surprise. And what will that get you? Said Maydeen, himself startled. You're the one who said you don't want to start something with the Empire. Do you really think you can get away with killing an imperial noble? I don't need to tell them I killed him. He'll just go down as missing on the surface of Lobnus too. Alongside the chief executive, that is. And what then? He grimaced. That'll just put you in a worse position. You know who else it'll put in a worse position? The asylum seekers who've already left Lobnus too. I don't know what might happen to them, specifically, but I look forward to finding out. What's certain is that their relocation will be suspended. Staring at Dokfo's demented eyes, true fear slowly but steadily reared its ugly head inside Jint, seizing his entire body. His head suddenly felt flaming hot, while an unpleasant dampness clung like syrup to his face. His teeth didn't want to come together, as his jaw shook uncontrollably. Maydeen tried talking sense. You wouldn't. Our position would worsen, that much is true, but yours would even more. Don't worry your head over us. This is the bet we're making for a kid-filled future. Jint suddenly noticed Dokfu was sweating too. Those eyes were more than demented, they were afraid. Give me your answer, said Dokfu. The answer is no. Maydeen answered instantly. Jint tried to say something, anything, but his teeth were chattering, so he gave up. You've got me. Dokfu heaved a sigh and withdrew the gun. Jint, too, breathed a sigh. Everything turned cold, and he held onto his own shoulders. The shaking wouldn't stop. Why won't you kill him? Anguzin glared at Jint contemptuously. Damn pansy. He may be a pansy, but he's a noble. And killing an imperial noble wouldn't bode well at all. The risk is just too great. Dokfo pressed the gun against the chief executive's head. You, on the other hand, I won't hesitate to kill. Go ahead. Do it. Maydeen was unperturbed. But what will you do after you kill me? Who'll be around to revoke the relocation for you? I'll revoke it as the new citizen representative. You're in for a disappointment. I've already submitted to Her Highness the Lady Agent the list of successors. Everyone on the list is an asylum seeker, but so long as they continue to walk this planet, then the role of citizen representative will be inherited by the formally decided next in line. Oh? And I assume one Mr. Tomasov is at the top of that list. Maydeen's eyes reeled open with alarm. What an easy man to read. Hit the bullseye, have I? It doesn't matter who's on the list, said Maydeen brusquely. It does matter. Do you really think he's the only one communicating with us? Said Dokfu, pointing at the guard who was just standing idly. No, there must be more, but now he was visibly disturbed. Tomasov is the one man I know would never touch Alkaiki. So you admit it. It is Mr. Tomasov after all. You can think whatever you like. Thank you for your permission. Now then, you won't revoke the authorization, correct? Of course not. Then you've outlived your usefulness. Dokfu pushed the gun between Maydeen's eyes. Don't do it. Cold sweat ran down Maydeen's face. If you would just revoke it, I would gladly refrain. I can't do that. Then his conviction returned to him. There's no way Tomasov is with you. If he'd revoke it for you, you'd kill me without hesitation. You may not believe me, but I don't like killing. That's the only reason I hesitate. I assure you, Mr. Tomasov will listen to anything I say. Also, if you revoke it for us, then we can sort this out in the most peaceable way possible. Forget it, said Maydeen, voice strained. Tomasov being one of you is a terrible lie, you third-rate conman. I shall give you 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3. Maydeen screwed his eyes shut. Jint hoped that, just like when it was his turn, Dokfu would change his mind at the last second. But that all it was hope. His body wouldn't move. All he managed to do was look away from Maydeen. 2, 1. Your time is up. The gunshot rang out. At that moment, what struck Jint was what he ought not to have dwelled on, so that's the sound a powder gun makes. Timidly, he looked over to Maydeen. Once it hit him what he was seeing, something forced its way up his throat. Maydeen's life had been snuffed out. After all, it was hard to believe anyone could live with the top half of his cranium blown off. The mass of meat that was once the chief executive collapsed facing up, a large quantity of blood pooling behind it. Bits of brain matter were scattered over the blood. Jint vomited. Is this wimp really a soldier? Sneered Anguzen. He's a soldier, but he's a noble first and foremost. I'm sure he's never laid witness to a corpse before. Dokfu's supposition was mistaken. It was just that Jin thought the corpse to which he laid witness wouldn't be quite as grisly. Finally, the urge to vomit subsided. That man. I may not have liked him very much, but he was a good man with a solid sense of responsibility. He glanced at the lifeless cadaver. So why'd you need to kill him? This too is war, O Imperial Noble. You people have killed scads and scads of even better people. I'm shocked a soldier like you would level such a charge at me. Dokfu was technically correct, but hearing that come out of Dokfu's mouth stoked a towering anger inside him. Now then, what do we do from here? Dokfu crossed his arms. We ought to message OL Tomasov, said Anguzen. Don't tell me you believe me when I said that. That man is far too square to be wallowing in narcotics. He is, of course, an enemy to be respected. So you tricked me? Anguzen's face turned red, possibly out of indignation. I didn't trick you. It's the chief executive I aimed to trick. Think how trite it'd be to let him pass on with a clear mind, secure in the knowledge he'd entrusted his future affairs to a trusted subordinate. You're rotten, Dokfu, said Anguzen. Jint concurred. Pay your respects to the dead, mates, said Anguzen, looking at the subordinates behind him. He was a nasty rotter, but he wasn't a coward. While Anguzen's men stood confused, Jint got up and saluted the heap that used to be Maydeen. Anguzen shot him a surprised look, but soon he was mimicking Jintsov's salute in his own crude way. Anguzen's henchmen followed suit. Never mind that, we need to think about our next moves, said Dokfu, spoiling the solemnity of the moment. We have another hostage, Anguzen pointed out. He's a crybaby, but come to think of it, that makes for a better hostage. Listen to me, we cannot afford to be picking fights with the Empire. I don't think we've any other option besides letting his nobleness run back home. He'll be a bit unnerved, but he'll forget all about goings-on on this tiny planet soon enough. I can't, Jint whispered to himself. Could you not talk like I'm not here, please? That right? If it were me and I got a gun pressed on me, I wouldn't ever forget about it. Though that might just be because I'm not a baby, said Anguzen. That's all well and good, but we can't make the situation any worse than it already is. Dokfu crossed his arms and fell silent. Then manage, ordered Anguzen, with a mighty aura of intimidation. That's easy for you to say, but Dokfu looked at Jint with pleading eyes. I truly don't want to start a fight with the Empire. But if we were to, say, threaten you, could you stop them from boarding? I'm just the lady agent adjunct. I don't have the authority, he answered, voice flat. All right then. Could you please recognize me as the citizen representative? I'm just the lady agent adjunct. I don't have the authority, he repeated expressionlessly. Damn it, I'm at a loss, said Dokfu, scratching his head. He flinched at the idea of antagonizing the Empire, but he was even more afraid of antagonizing Anguzen. Looking at Anguzen's thick brawny muscles, it wasn't hard to see why. Who's got the authority then? Asked Anguzen, irate. The lady agent, Obviously, Jint deigned to respond. Her Highness is currently in orbit. Threaten her. Using him as a hostage, said Anguzen, pointing at Jint. But, Dokfo looked as though he could break into tears. If you can't, then you're a coward. And I won't shake hands with a coward. I'd never be able to face my dead mother. So I'll be killing your ass first. Half of the men in the room raised their weapons, glaring at Anguzen. Seconds later, the other half brandished their own with a chorus of clinks. Nervous tension permeated the crowded room. Now, that's enough of that. A shootout in a place this cramped? Between allies, said Dokfo, waving a hand. Then do it. Show us you're not a coward. Fine, I will. Dokfu's shoulders slumped, but a moment later he'd collected himself. Establish a line with the lady's manner, if you would. Jint gazed at the leader of the Central Zone with pity in his eyes. While Anguzen was even worse, Dokfu was clearly lacking in knowledge about the of. To think he would choose issuing threats to the Empire over the more sensible option, dying here and now. Leifier was staring at the map of Raji Island on the main display screen. Now was right around the time Jint's group would arrive at the West Correctional Zone. Yet there had been no call, no message. Captain, a message from the next term citizen representative, said Ekriwa. Ignore it, ordered Leifier. She couldn't ignore a message from the current citizen representative, but Dokfu was still just a land-world citizen at the moment. Dokfu was only slated to inherit the role once the current one, Maydeen, left Lobnis too, and the Bossroyer left this territory nation. If things proceeded smoothly, she might never have to return, and moreover, she might never have to see Dokfu's stupid face again, not even over the communication line. Captain, this time it's a message from Rearguard Lin. Put it through. It's from his wrist gear. Is there no transmission equipment at the new command post? Leifier could only frown. The circumstances must be harsher than she'd expected. Are you there, Your Highness? Leifier's expression turned grimmer still. The voice the bridge was playing host to wasn't even Barnu, let alone Jint. Who are you? The newly inaugurated Star System Premier, as of right now. Dokfo. Now please receive my call. This thing is too difficult to use. Though I do admire its small size. Captain, a call from the next term, put it through. Video of Dokfo replaced the map of Raji Island. Explain, said Leifier. Explain, as in explain why I'm holding your adjunct's transmission device? Well, to be frank with you. I took it. Is the man alive? Yes, of course. See for yourself. The camera panned toward a sitting Jint. He clearly didn't know what to say. Hey, was all he said, smiling a bashful smile. How very like you, Jint, she thought to herself. Dokfo strode back into the picture, next to Jint. Now for my demands. The answer is no, she cut in immediately. Please, at least hear me out, said Dokfo, wounded. We are holding His Excellency, your adjunct. Return him. Now. Dokfo looked up at the ceiling. Honestly, doing so may be in our best interests. Quit that, said somebody off-screen. Talk terms with her, Dokfo. You aren't the one in charge, quibbled Leifier. If so, show the face of whoever is. No, I am the one in charge, so to speak. Or at least, I like to think I am. Sawbash came to her side and whispered, Captain, we've cross-referenced that voice print. He's the leader of the East Correctional Zone, the man who only ever called you the one time. Named Anguzen. Leifier nodded as a sign she'd understood. It came as no surprise, she knew the inmates of the East were the ones who sparked the uprising to begin with. I never signed up to be under you, Dokfo, came Anguzen's voice. I refuse to return the baby. Not as long as those Ovs keep taking away the girls. Jint is not a baby. Leifier shouted angrily, despite herself. But he is. He was shaking in his boots, even hurled chunks. Oh yeah, said Jint. I forgot to tell you something important. Mr. Maydeen got executed. You should name the new citizen representative in accordance with the line of suck. You keep your mouth shut. A burly leg kicked Jint in the head from off-screen. Bastard. Leifier's hands curled into fists. She wanted to touch down onto the landworld's surface that instant. She wanted to teach that filthy criminal reprobate. Even just hearing his name in the back of her head made her skin crawl. by her own hand just how nasty the vengeance wrought by the kin of the stars could be. I'm not afraid of death of. Aang finally entered the video. Being unable to have kids is the same as being dead. Stop taking the women. If you don't, I'll kill him. You may be able to kill us, but you can't ensure he stays alive. Kill you. Leifir was a little taken aback. Are you joking? We aren't that merciful. What do you mean? Confusion warped Aang's face. Oh, allow me to explain, Mr. Aang, Mr. Dokfu, said Sabash, in a pleasant manner. But that was where the pleasant facade ended. The agreeability of his smile lasted for a mere moment, soon shifting into the type that had grown notorious throughout humanity, the smile of the of. We think exacting revenge in a conscientious and upright fashion is a reason to get up in the morning. And we make it our policy to have those who are involved in a fellow of's unjust demise experience for themselves the fact that in this galaxy, there's something far more abhorrent than death. Mr. Aang, you say you aren't afraid of death. But what form of death do you refer to? If you're picturing us simply blasting you with a laser beam, then your assumptions have deluded you. And I guarantee that you will be given ample time to realize how delusional you once were. Once you've had a taste of the vengeance of the Av, you will beg to be allowed to die. You will beg for death, no matter how agonizing. But you will not be granted permission to die. We don't believe in any religion, but we do believe in hell. We know it's very real. That is because it exists in this very galaxy, in ours, the realm of the Av. I invite you to see firsthand just how despicable what our ancient emperor, Dugnak, and the dark corners of science and technology have devised. Wait, hold on a second, said Dokfu, flustered. Revenge only breeds more hatred. Then hatred gives rise to even more hatred, leading to a never-ending cycle. Revenge may not be very productive, but our reputation for exacting vengeance does protect us. When I was young, I would often visit strange lands and tread over exceptionally thin ice. That I remain in good health to this day is, I think, a testament to how thoroughly that of notoriety has safeguarded me far more than the thickest armor ever could, said Sabash. I hope that holds true now as well, Mr. Dokfu. For you and us both. Dokfu looked at Aang with pleading eyes. Aang, for his part, stood there, expressionless. There was no means whatsoever of asking him what was running through that head of his. No, he uttered. Whatever he was feeling, it didn't bleed into his tone of voice. I'm not like you, I believe in God's teachings. And I believe in a hell that's not within this galaxy. I realized when I was 13 that that's where I'm headed. Experiencing the phony hell you people cooked up will be good training for the real one God created. So if you take the girls, I kill him. Is that right? Said Leifir coldly. Fine then. But don't you dare die before I get there. I'm against this, yelled Dokfu. You're a coward, too, Dokfu, railed Aang. What a shame, said Sabash. Please drop us a call if you change your minds. Hold on, Dokfu wasn't willing to give up. He sought to keep this powder keg in check. Yet Leifir was no longer paying Dokfu's words any heed. Jint, in fact, the eyes of the royal princess were no longer registering the two inmate leaders. I am an Avriel. Avriels do not cry. If I weren't an Avriel, then, she herself didn't understand what she was saying. The second she cut the transmission, she cast her eyes downward. Captain, called Ekriua without delay. The Luisaith has been on the line. It's a call from Mechanics Liewing Samson. Put it through, said Leifir, head still hanging. I'm so sorry, Captain, said Samson. I should have followed him. It isn't your fault. The man made his decision. But it's okay. It's his responsibility that he got caught, and my responsibility that I'm abandoning him. Are you planning to abandon him? Because I'm calling in the hopes you'll order me to return to the surface and rescue Rearguard Lin. It was tempting, very tempting. If she dithered for even a moment, she knew she'd wind up issuing just such an order, with herself standing at the head if at all possible. But Samson and his subordinates were hardly land war experts, and they were few in number to boot. The rescue operation would be tricky in the best of times. This was just impossible. Come back aboard, she murmured. But Captain, they said outright that they don't want to fight the Imperial Star Forces head-on. I don't think they would fire at people wearing these uniforms. Given the preceding transmission, she knew Samson was being overly optimistic. First of all, There was no way the insurgents were that disciplined. They were an armed mob first and foremost. Moreover, the leader of the East Zone would never forbid his henchmen from engaging in combat. And most importantly, they were already threatening to kill an Imperial noble. It was hard to think they'd then abstain from killing star pilots and NCCs. She could easily see the mission ending in her losing her precious subordinates. "You had best resume your actual work duties," insisted Lafier. "I'm begging you, Captain, allow me to fulfill my responsibility. I don't plan on taking my subordinates. I'll go it alone. I aim to throw the dice, because I bet they'll try to avoid a fight. All they need is a jolt. They've failed, and deep down, they know it, but people are generally poor sports about acknowledging it when they've blown it. My going down there will jolt them into admitting their failure, and they'll give us our kiddo back. So please, let me make that wager." Silence. A white-hot anger flared inside her head. Anger not toward him, but toward her mission, and toward her own powerlessness. Still looking down, she pounded the console. She was thankful to her bluish-black hair for masking her face. "Don't disregard me, and don't tell me you'll go it alone. I told you already, you don't bear any responsibility in this. So be silent, Samson Borg Tyrasek." Samson was speechless. "Captain," said Ekrua. "The Merkter is calling. It's Unit Commander Gabatek." Before she could order her to put it through, the line came through. "Your Highness," said Gabatek, saluting hurriedly. "I'm aware of the situation. I can organize a land platoon of no more than 50. I believe it would be optimal to land the traffic ship within our core near where Lanyaruk Variak, His Excellency the Lady Agent Adjunct, is being held, and storm the compound." Lafier raised her head, only to realize Sabash and Ekrua were staring at her. "What are the chances of success, then?" asked Lafier. A small ray of hope had emerged. "There are too many unknowns to be sure, but I'm told it's anywhere between 0.08 and 0.21. And if you were to fail, what would become of the ground platoon? They would all be stranded. The chances of success are the same as the chances the traffic ship remains intact by the end of the land-world operation. We haven't taken into account the possibility of making it through the riding all the way to the amphibious ship, so it may suit us to view the actual rate of success as slightly higher. Please, your orders." Lafier stayed silent for a moment. Then, at last, she quietly stated her orders. "Lend all your efforts to making sure the relocation boarding goes smoothly." "Are those your orders?" "Correct." "Understood. End transmission." Ekrua sighed disappointedly. "Who is the next citizen representative?" "Skipping over the man who called me earlier, of course," asked Lafier. Sabash pulled up the info. "Looks like it's a person named Tomasov. Call this Tomasov immediately. We'll make it official summarily." Lafier sat up straight. "For the time being, we have to forget about him." "Can you forget him?" "Fee," muttered Ekrua. Lafier scowled at the rear-guard star pilot. "This is the first time she's ever called me Fee," she thought. "Guess they left me to die." But in his heart, Jint felt strangely relieved. His mortal fear hadn't gone, but when she said, "If I weren't an Avriel," he noticed her long eyelashes were shaking and felt something close to contentment. Meanwhile, Dokfu was pacing the room in a state of agitation. "Do you realize what you've said? I, for one, want nothing to do with an actual living hell. Besides, you don't even do Al-Kaiki, because it goes against God's teachings." "What about it?" replied Anguzen vacantly. "What other reason is there to be so attached to this planet? Granted, we can't exactly get them to put us on the next flight out, but we ought to take the next opportunity to relocate wherever we so choose. Then we can have so many kids we'd struggle to remember their names." Anguzen's eyes opened slightly wider. "Hadn't occurred to me. Give me a break." Dokfa sank to the floor right then and there, like a feeble leaf. "The only reason we're stuck on this miserable rock is because we can't forget the sweet taste of Al-Kaiki. But the first thing I do once I become the official system premier is give you a license to relocate. So don't be so obstinate. Let's let this young man go home." "No. A real man never goes back on his word." Besides, to Jint's surprise, Anguzen's expression looked sad and lonely. "There isn't a planet out there that'd take me in. This is the only place I've got, Dokfoy. Even so, at this rate we're doomed." Dokfo tried talking him down with a calming voice. You heard them, didn't you? The Ovs have no intention whatsoever of leaving the women behind. So, what use is killing the lad? The outcome won't be pretty, that much is certain. Come on, let's just cut our losses. I'm going to call them and say we changed our minds. I trust you'll let me. The other men in the room traded uneasy glances. Uneasiest of all was the traitor guard. Jin considered that a bit of cosmic justice. Furthermore, the situation was taking a turn for the favorable. Only one man in the whole room wanted to kill Jint, and that man seemed at quite the loss. Inadvertently, a self-assured smile crept over Jint's face, but he made sure to smother it immediately. If he got caught looking as though he had composure to spare, they might mistake it as a mocking smirk, causing the number of people who wanted him dead to spike. For whatever reason, this land world housed an impressive crowd of hot tempers. No, Anguzin proved a stubborn mule indeed. But why? Dokfo grumbled. You don't have any real reason to resist the idea. I fail to believe you honestly mean to rehearse your own stay in God's hell. At least, I'm not having it, you hear me? There is no God's hell anyway. There couldn't possibly be. And of hell, on the other hand, probably does exist. If you ask me, their kind is plenty inclined to create one. No, repeated Anguzin. For heaven's sake. Dokfo didn't hide his irritation. Listen, I'm going to have them cease fire. Nothing good will come of kicking up any more of a fuss out there. I despise the counterproductive. I can't let you do that, said Anguzin. Now that it's come to this, we just have to use force. Let's join forces and prevent them from hauling off the girls. I have no intention of doing any such thing, said Dokfo. If that's what you want to do it yourselves. But I'll warn you to watch your backs. Well, what do you know, now there is a reason to keep the crybaby hostage, Dokfo. With those words, Anguzin's fingers were suddenly around Jin's neck. Cease the fighting and he dies. And to top it all off, I'll tell the world you did it. That way you can really savor that pretend hell of theirs. Jin tried his damnedest to pull off those logs Anguzin called arms, but they failed to budge. And what reason have I to roll over and let that false charge slide? Dokfo's eyes narrowed. I have plenty of men who will attest to the truth. You'll be the only one making a pit stop at the pretend hell on your way to the real one. That is, if the real one even exists. Jin's consciousness was beginning to fade, but he managed to open his eyes a smidgen to take in the room. How peculiar, that even though the two head honchos were now in open conflict, the inmates were merely looking on, as though amused by some droll spectacle. Fine, then I'll be waiting for you in the real hell. And I look forward to seeing if the Ov are gonna hear out your explanations. Ugh. That's playing dirty. You could do the same, if you didn't fear death, Dokfo. You're a coward, just like the rest of us, Anguzin, choked out Jint. He knew full well saying that was digging his hole even deeper, but he couldn't help giving him a piece of his mind. If you had any courage, you'd accept the consequences of your actions. Oh ho, so the little baby does have some balls. Mouthing off to me, the one and only Anguzin. The man tightened his grip around Jin's throat. But what I hate a hell of a lot more than a coward is a snot-nosed smartass. Good God, man. Dokfo shook his head hotly. You think I'm going to go along with your idiotic posturing? It's suicide. Now let the young man go. Dokfo then addressed Anguzin's lackeys. How long do you intend to follow this man? Shut your trap, all you arse gutless weasel, spat one of the inmates. Then, the bangs of several bullets ripped through the room. The hell's going on in here? Such was the last thought Jint registered, in his frustration, before blacking out.